welcome to our CPP game development meeting. Okay, can anyone hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Oh, it's up all the way. Just kidding.
Okay.
Is it up all the way?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you.
Great, okay, so welcome. Today we're going to be talking about choosing a palette. So what is a color palette? A color palette is a set of colors that are chosen based on a set of rules. In terms of game development, it's the set of colors that will be used for the artwork in your game. This can vary from just a few colors to a wide set of colors. Why are color palettes important? The color palettes we pick convey our theme and mood. At a quick glance, the color theme is the first thing that we notice. So if we take a look at Undertale's color palette, on the left, you can see Toriel's house. It's a lot lighter and there's a lot more warmer colors, and it makes the scene happy and safe. And the right, the colors are darker and blue. It makes it look more cooler, and it can be serene or sad. In Battlefield 3, a lot of the colors are dark and unsaturated, which kind of goes along with its serious tone since it's all warfare. And then the orange and the blue are complementary colors, which contrast well with the otherwise muted tones. And then in Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, a lot of the colors are either really saturated or very pastel, and it carries a much lighter tone, and it goes well with the game.
Okay, it's Lorenzo speaking. So we're going to talk about why we use color palettes and how we can use them as tools. So color palettes help a game feel more cohesive and set the tone. They work hand in hand with the gameplay in working with the art style to make everything feel like a cohesive experience. It's also another way to deliver a message behind your game. A lot of games, colors, or especially indie games, colors are really important for getting the theming right and telling a message, and colors can be used to guide your players and make them feel certain emotions. So we all know that colors make us feel certain ways. That's just a psychological thing. But colors can also, your color design can also be used to help guide players in different ways. So we have different examples here. The first example is Mirror's Edge, which is if you haven't played it, you should play it. But it's a really fun parkour game where you parkour around the city. And the colors in this game are unique in that every single building is white. So the theme of the game is how you're trying to escape. You're trying to escape a conformist world, and you do that by parkouring. So everything in the city is white, but the things you can parkour on are colored bright colors like red. So it not only works to show the player where to go, but it also works for the theming of showing of breaking from conformity. And then some more simple examples we have. This is Resident Evil Village, the second one, right? Village.
Yeah.
So it's just showing that everything that's yellow can be broken. So it shows a yellow box. It's just an indicator to the player that you can destroy these things. That's another way color can be used. Two more examples are, the first one's Uncharted, where it shows that everything that you could climb on has it's not a distinct color, but it shows a brighter edge. So you can use colors not just by themselves, but also their hue and saturation to show the player where to go. And lastly is probably the most famous example. We have exploding red barrels. So everyone knows who's played an FPS before, if you shoot the red barrels, they blow up. So that's just become something that's ingrained in a lot of gamers' mind. And it's another way you can use color to aid your game development. How to pick a color palette. Okay, so we're going to go over this really quick video that's really good in showing you how you can use color palettes and how you can pick them.
When drawing pixel art or digital art of any kind, we're presented with millions of colors to choose from. It can be quite challenging to select a handful that work together for your project. A really great way to make your artwork more cohesive is to use a color palette. Hopefully this video will help, and by the end we'll be able to select some nice colors. Welcome to my color tutorial. Let's get started. Breaking down the color settings. One of the best ways to select colors is HSB, or hue, saturation, and brightness. Hue is the actual color with nothing else applied to it. I like to think of it as a rainbow where you pick a color based on its name, like red, blue, or orange. Saturation is how intense or strong the color is, and you can visualize it as a scale from grey to full color. Finally, brightness refers to how light or dark your color is. So how do these settings relate to pixel art and game design? Well, cooler hues such as blue and purple can indicate calmness, green can indicate something natural, and the warmer tones can suggest more dramatic things. Of course, this is an oversimplified approach to hue, and no specific hue has to stick with the classifications listed. Saturation can indicate how fun or playful something is, with more saturated assets being used for cartoon, comical art styles, and less saturation for realistic, mature artworks. Brighter colors can be used for bright, happy things, and dark colors usually mean more dramatic, dangerous themes. In this sense, brightness is usually paired with saturation, but not always. Now we know what the color settings do, let's start picking some colors. Designing a palette. A common mistake a lot of people make when choosing shades for their colors is to only adjust the brightness. Just using the brightness can make the darker colors look dirty or muddy. To change this, we can saturate the colors as they decrease in brightness and desaturate them as they increase in brightness. But the most important change we can make is hue shifting. Hue shifting is changing the hue of the color as the brightness changes. Let's take this red palette for example. Because in the real world, highlights are more yellow and shadows are more blue, when hue shifting we can apply the same idea. Going up from the red we go through orange and into yellow. Going down from red it starts to become more purple. By hue shifting your selected colors will look more vibrant as they get darker, and in a game or scene having all the shades colorful usually looks a lot nicer. So generally speaking, try to shift your lighter shades towards yellow and your darker shades towards blue. Here are a few more examples. Your color palette could consist of a couple sets, one for each of the main colors you want to use. Now we have the color palette, we can refine it some more. We want to have as few unique colors as necessary to minimize double ups. A good way to retain cohesiveness and refine your color palette is to do something called color bridging. When you bridge colors, you make some of the colors on the highest and lowest ends of the spectrum the same, and this helps tie the sets together. Here's a drawing that uses a more beginner's palette, and here's a drawing with a few of the color rules applied. Okay, so we understand the basic rules and principles, but how can we use these to give our art a specific feel? Setting a mood. I think one of the biggest factors in setting a mood isn't the colors but the lighting. Lighting can play a huge role in your scene and shouldn't be overlooked. Low dim lighting can mean your scene feels scary and dangerous, like the character is fighting a boss or a villain. If your scene is well lit, then it can have a more pleasant feel. Take these two drawings, one is dark, one is bright. Even without changing the content, we've made a huge difference with lighting. Another thing to keep in mind when setting a mood is temperature. Naturally, warmer colors can feel more inviting, and cooler colors less. This is because we associate color with temperature. In these two images, the left one looks much more inviting just through the use of warmer shades. Online resources. When going about a drawing or a game, I think it's important to finalize your color scheme and mood beforehand. There are a couple of free websites that can be quite useful for making color palettes. The first is coolors.co, a free website for generating and finding color palettes. By hitting spacebar on the Generate tab, Coolors will generate a unique color palette. It won't take long for you to find a color palette you like, and when you do, you can export, save, or edit it. On the Explore tab, you can discover some of the best palettes made by other people. The next is lowspec.com, a pixel art centered website with hundreds of pixel oriented palettes to choose from. If you're not comfortable making your own palette just yet, I highly recommend this site. Both are linked in the description. Thanks for watching this video, I really hope you could find something useful from it. Thanks to SoggyHm for suggesting the idea. If you have a video idea you want turned into reality, comment below and I might get to it. This was more of a theory video, so if you enjoyed it and want to see more, then I've got a similar one on the left. If you prefer a more step-by-step approach, the video on the right might be more suitable. Thanks.
Alright, so that was a really quick video on how to pick a color palette. It's a really good video. I would suggest that you take all the tips that he gave. So ways to make color palettes. So now that you know how you can use color palettes, we're going to talk about ways that you can create them. The first and easiest way is to simply just use a palette that's already been made. I did this personally with my team. We used, these are not 3 websites, these are 4, my bad. We used one of these websites to show, or to get a color palette for our game, and then I added a few colors as well. We're just going to go to them since we have time. Okay, so this is one of the ones that was showed in the video. This is a really cool website, not just for using for pixel art, but you can use it if you're creating any kind of art. or even if you want to find a palette for like a room or something. So how it works is that you can select a color, and then they changed it since I last used it. You could like view the shades of a certain color, change it, and then you could lock the colors, and you can also generate. Oh, that's not what I meant to do.
You can hit spacebar.
Oh yeah, hit spacebar, that's what it is. You hit spacebar and it changes the colors that are on your palette, and if you really like one, you can lock it. If you hit spacebar again, it'll change to different colors, and then you can go through and like lock colors that you really like until you have a palette. Oh, I liked that orange before, whatever. And here's a nice simple palette that you can use. Next, we have lowspec.com, okay? My God, your trackpad, Larry. Okay, so this one specifically is for pixel art. They have tutorials also for pixel art, but for this case, we're gonna do palette list. This one is the one specifically I used with my team in my very first game. So there's lots of palettes that you can choose from here. There's also options for choosing how many colors you want and such. Next is palette time. Okay, I have to remember what this is. Okay, so this one you just you choose kind of from like a color wheel. You can like move the shades all by themselves so that it remains cohesive. You can make it more muted, and then you could change. You could pick like the hue of it on the outer ring, and like the saturation is like the inner ring. Oh my God, your trackpad. Okay, and then you can export it from there. And then last one is one I found like right before the meeting. Okay. So this is from Adobe. Of course, you know Adobe. They like have like Photoshop and stuff, and then they like link all the colors together so that you can see like what's cohesive. And if you move it out, you can get a broader range. If you move them closer together, you get a closer range while still remaining cohesive. Like moves the other colors to like give you colors that best match the other colors in your palette. So I just found this, but it seems really interesting. Maybe not so much for game development, but you can use it for lots of other things as well. Okay. All right, so if you don't want to use a color palette, you can make your own using tools like Aseprite, and we're going to go over some more tips that you can use for creating your own color palette. So one thing to keep in mind is color harmonies. So color harmonies are basically it's based on the color wheel, and using different harmonies, you can create. You can choose colors based on like the first color you pick. So they all give different tones. So let's go to the next slide as to what all the different color harmonies are. Okay, so the very first one is probably the most basic one. We have complementary colors. So if you look at yellow, the complementary color to yellow is purple. So you basically pick the color that's on the opposite side of the color wheel. And these are really contrasting colors, but they look good together. So they shouldn't be like the main part of your palette, but they're good for adding contrast and for standing out. One example of this that we went over earlier was actually Battlefield 3. So Battlefield 3 was kind of a move into like the new modern military setting. So all the colors were like really drab and like muted. but the main two colors were blue and orange, which are complementary colors, which added like a bit of flair to their marketing and really stood out against the dull background. And then after that, we have split commentary. So it's pretty similar to it's kind of similar to complementary, but instead of being directly opposite, you choose the ones that are like diagonal or like right next to the ones that's completely opposite. This is if you want to go for like the same effect as complementary, but you don't want it to be as harsh as like just choosing the opposite one. Next is analogous, which is if you pick a color, you pick the ones that are like right next to it, the next two colors. And this is good for oh shoot. What happened there? Okay, maybe I was touching the trackpad.
No, it just looks like it's on the projector's end.
Okay, I guess there's something wrong with our projector.
I think the projector is
Okay. So this is to create a more muted color scheme, but if you rely on it too much, it might be a bit too muted. So try not to do this too much. And we have triadric, where you pick the colors that are like in thirds from one another. So yellow, blue, and red are all like a third of the way from each other. And then you can use this to create nice blending effects between the colors. And if you want to create subtle color palettes, oh my gosh, I can't tell if it's your laptop or the projector. Okay. Last few we have tetradic. So use 4 colors that are like either in a square or a rectangle. These two are the same. So the way you use this is that you have one color or 1 or 2 colors that like are the main colors, and then the rest are like accent colors. So here yellow is the main, yellow and purple are main colors, and blue and orange are like the accent colors. The same goes for the rectangular here. And then monochromatic is actually you choose one color and you just shift the hues down, or not the hues, the saturation down, so you use the same color. Oh my gosh, what is going on with this thing? Okay, yeah, that's definitely the projector. And this is really nice if you want to create a subtle pattern or a palette. You can see in a lot of older games, since with their lack of colors, they did a lot of this. Okay. For anyone that's online, we're having really bad projector issues, but it shall be fine. Okay. So some very last tips. It's much easier to start with less colors. A lot of the art community says that a good start for a color palette is with 5, or if you want to go even less than that, you can go like 3. If you have too many colors, it's really hard to incorporate them all into a cohesive palette, and there's like too much to think about. So if it's your first time, I would definitely suggest starting with 5 or less. And then last 2 things is to consider the psychological meaning behind the colors. So earlier we talked about how red was used in Mirror's Edge to like demonstrate where to go, but also psychologically means like passion and such. So it shows, it's like prompting the player to move toward the color and like evade authorities, and then determine how it will relate to the theme of the game. This kind of goes with the psychological thing, and what message you want to tell for the game. And yeah. Okay, last thing, your color palette goes hand in hand with the art of your game. So be sure to attend this week's workshop, which will go over pixel art. We'll be going over some principles in pixel art, and then hopefully we'll be doing like where everyone draws together and such, and we can like talk about the art that you make. And in addition to that, there's going to be a video going out that goes over animation in pixel art, which I will also do this time. I'll do the video again. And this is a free app that you can use to create pixel art. We used to use it a lot last semester, but apparently they're getting rid of accounts, but you can still use it to create sprites. If we find something else, we can definitely tell you about it, but for now we'll use that because it's free. And last thing is announcements. Okay. Again, this Friday at 5 p.m., we have the Intro to Pixel Art and Animation workshop. And for those of you that haven't heard, this semester we're going to hold a game jam that's happening on October 29th to October 31st. And then, Sam, do you want to talk about it, or should I talk about it? Okay.
Alright, so you guys, we're going to talk real quick about the Halloween Horror Jam. So for those of you who are unaware, a game jam is basically an event where teams get together, usually in smaller teams. So for this game jam, the limit is 6 people. You basically get together and you have to create a game within a certain time limit. In this case, the time limit is actually going to be 48 hours. And there's another restriction in that you guys have to follow a specific theme. Now, when it comes to the theme, you could add it either literally in your game or you could have it as a mechanic. As long as the theme is within the game, then you guys, then you're within the constraints of the game jam. So go ahead, all of the information about the game jam is going to be on our Discord server. So I'm standing right in front of it. If you guys, go ahead and scan that QR code right there. It's like, I don't know if you'll be able to scan it because the projector is acting really funky, but hopefully it works. But there's also a link to it in announcements. So again, what's super cool about this game jam is it's not exclusive to CPP students, which means if you guys have friends in other colleges, you guys are more than welcome to get together and go ahead and make a game jam. So as long as anyone over the age of 18 who attends a U.S. college or is a U.S. high school senior is allowed to join the game jam. There's no entrance fee. It's completely free. And of course, the winners will be winning a prize, and the prize will actually be announced on the 29th during the kickoff presentation. But yes, the top 3 teams will be receiving prizes for this game jam. So yeah, it's going to be super cool. We hosted one last year and it was a pretty good success. And I'm hoping this year it could be a pretty big one as well. If you have like any friends in other schools who might want to like share it with their friends or might want to share it with their game development classes, go ahead, spread the information about this. It's going to be super fun. It's also going to be completely online, so there's no worry about being in a venue or anything like that. It's going to be completely hosted online. Do you guys have any questions about the game jam or basically like anything about game development or just like the meetings in general, anything about pixel art or animation that you guys have any questions about, just let any of us know.
Can you teach me everything?
Teach you everything? Yeah, no problem. All right, so first off, you're going to have to learn a coding language. I don't know if you're aware of those ones. There's several of them. There's Scratch.
Good one.
Oh, I just realized that's Nandan. Hi, Nandan.
Hi.
I know, you're messing with someone random and it's Nandan.
Yeah, I just decided to tune in. Yeah.
Yo, Nandan. So, for those of you who are not aware, Nandan was our webmaster last year. He was actually the person who led the pixel art workshop last year as well. So, it's really cool to see you, Nandan.
Thank you.
He was also the vice president at some point of the club.
At some point.
Yeah, very
I'm a
knowledgeable.
boomer, basically, for the people that don't know. Not actually, like, for the people that are wondering. Not actually, but yeah.
All right, so I guess if there aren't any other questions about the game jam or about the pixel art or picking your color palettes, you guys are free to go ahead into your teams and talk more about your game pitches. All right, thank you so much, guys.